morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. We have Director Demare, Director Pettengill, and Director Herford, Director Hopful all online with us today. And there's Lori. Great. And Director Mack will join us if he can. There was a blockade, power line down in Gateslink. So he's got no power and he couldn't hit. So he's fine. He's fine. But getting here is hard. So with that, let's call this committee of the whole for February 26th to order. And we'll take a moment to recognize that we're here today on the traditional territory of the Lillooet people. And we are grateful to be here. This is a tough week, having had the avalanche in Joffrey Lake a couple days ago, and so we appreciate their stewardship and their care for this land. Can I ask that someone please move approval of the agenda? Moved by Director French, seconded by Director Richmond. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We will defer the regional moment for Area D until the March committee of the whole. We have no items for close today, so we will go straight to 5.1 CAO verbal update.
Hi everyone, Heather Paul, CAO. Nothing is report today.
Okay, thank you. And 5.2, we've got the 2026 draft regional budget. This is our third look at this. And we've got Suzanne LaFrance and Colin Hodgins here to take us through.
Hot seat.
Right. This is Suzanne LaFrance, Director of Finance, and we're going through the remaining regional budget 5-year plans for approval today. This is the home stretch. Basically, the next meeting is the adoption of the financial plan. And that's the March 4 meeting. So far, these draft regional budgets do a consolidated requisition of 5.7%. That's the taxation level. And however, due to the assessment changes, the residential assessment of $1 million would pay $742 a year for these regional services, and that's only $1 over last year. The total consolidated tax requisitions for all of the SLRD services is 1.4% so far, or $216,958 over 2025. But this is due to a big change in recreation service, where it's moved from a shared service to a financial contribution service. So the village of Pemberton's portion is no longer being received by the SLRD. So if we added that back in, the percentage would be 6.8% of increase for all of the SLRD. And no one person would ever pay a tax for all of these services, so it's just a statistic. Before we get into the budgets, we just like to discuss the infographics that were. I'll give it to Colin Hodgins.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, Colin Hodgins, Deputy Director of Finance. You'll notice in the agenda package, attachment A, we have some new infographics that we've put together to kind of show a snapshot of the SLRD annual budget. I'm sure if anyone's looked at our actual budget, it can be hard to sometimes draw conclusions from our 140, 50 plus page package. So really what we try to do here is highlight just some high level items that we think would be helpful for the public and allow people to look at this and only spend a few minutes to kind of grab some high level information. The first slide is who does what. It just kind of highlights the responsibilities between provincial, federal, and local government, and just kind of help highlight which services residents might find being offered by which division of government. The second infographic is just a little blurb on how property values and taxes are collected. This is similar to the information that's found in the mailouts that come with the property tax notices that we put together every year, but this is just a little, it's a bit more cleaned up and visual for the website and any other communications that we may put out. The next is we have some SLRD budget category definitions. These are to assist the infographics below and just kind of highlights which services we group together for the purposes of these infographics. We have general government, protected services, recreation and culture, and then waste and utilities and other services. Moving to the next infographic, we have the total requisition by area. So this is just a summary of how much each electoral area and municipality pays in total requisition in 2026. And I will note that obviously our budget is still in draft mode, so the numbers in these infographics are a work in progress, but we will update them with a final number once the budget is adopted and share those with the public when it's finalized. The next few slides are how the budget is distributed between the SLRD by service. So how the total SLRD tax budget fund are distributed. And this is the SLRD as a whole, and it's just kind of grouping total taxation by the different services that we offer. And then moving into our area snapshots, it's similar to the one above, but we've broken it down by electoral area. And you'll notice on the left side of the page, we have these circles and show a percentage. Those represent the services that are regional wide and that everyone in an electoral area pays for. And then on the right, we have the local community services. So if you live in area A, you will pay for every service that's shown in the bubble graphic. And then on the right, you may or may not pay for some of those services, such as the fire and the sewer, and that would depend on where you live. We've also broken it out, the community specific services. We have both requisition and parcel tax services. So we've shown a rate per 1,000 for the requisition services, and we've shown an average estimated tax per property for the parcel tax services. It's an ongoing thing. We're always trying to find ways to display this information that's digestible for people in the community. And every service is different and every community has different tax rates. So it's been a bit of a challenge trying to put it together, but I think we've done a pretty good job here, and our communications team has been really helpful in getting this across the finish line. And yeah, so there's there's an EA snapshot for each electoral area. And really, we just wanted to share this with the board today to get a first look at it, and we're always looking for feedback. We hope this is a document that we can update on an annual basis and kind of continue to improve and share with the community. So any feedback is also appreciated. So we can take it and try and incorporate it.
These are so good.
Yeah, this is
Like,
good.
this is so helpful. And I don't think that we have ever had such a clear vision of something so complex.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the first time getting the first budget, my first year on the board, and it was like 17,000 pages of lines, and I'm like, no, this is, I don't even know what I'm seeing, because
And didn't we try and cover it in one day? And it was like a fire hose. It was overwhelming.
yeah.
For us.
And there was no other way at the time to understand, because you want to see detail. Because not everyone pays the same, where depending on where they live. But then you also don't really understand the difference, like if you come from a municipality, why is the tax bill not coming from the SLRD? It's coming from the province, and there's that whole, who am I paying and what am I paying for? And so it's complex. And this is amazing. Director Pettengill?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, really appreciate this. I did have just a couple clarifying questions. the budget requisitions and parcel tax by electoral area, the horizontal bar chart, would that, I take it that doesn't include like PILT funds, like payment in lieu of taxes. Those would be separate from that, or are those included, those numbers included in here?
No, that is just requisition and parcel tax, so actually what residents of those areas are paying. Any like grant funds or other revenue sources aren't included in those totals.
Okay, and then just related, like with electoral area C, where we are in our process, would like the new tax service for Cataline Creek, would have that hit this year, or that sort of number would show up next year, or?
Cataline Creek is included in that area C figure, which, and this is a great example of the challenges of trying to put this large budget into these small infographics, is that Cataline Creek service has a large tax requisition, but isn't necessarily paid for by all area C, so it does increase the area C's total requisition and parcel tax amount. And this isn't meant to replace our budget. Obviously, if you had wanted more information, you could go into the budget, you could see that detail of which services cost what and who's paying for those services, but yes, that this area C amount in the total requisition infographic would include Cataline Creek and all area C services, regardless of if it's paid for by everyone.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Anyone else with questions on this portion? Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, a couple of things. But where's this going to be, Colin? What will we do with it? Now, first of all, I think it's excellent.
Yeah.
Now, it must have taken the whole morning to do that. I wonder what you did in the afternoon.
Yeah, I can maybe like let our communications team discuss with it. I think at this stage, it's, we have the infographics and we're gonna decide how we want to share them. But Patricia
Okay.
can always speak to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, Colin. Patricia Westerholm, Director of Communications and Engagement for the SLRD. So we do have a communications plan around this, which is our internal sort of guideline operational document. This is the result of that guide. So the plan was to share them with the board, and then we'll be sharing them on the SLRD website and creating versions for social media as well that we can incorporate in particularly around this time of year, of course, when we're in budget mode, but also throughout the year as part of our regular social media content calendar process. So they'll live as infographic type documents that we can share repeatedly to just help educate the community and the public on the budget process and the various things included in the documents. And then we're starting on a communications plan, working obviously really closely with the finance team for the next budget process, which I'm not sure anyone wants to be thinking about quite yet, but we are, just to make sure that we're starting this maybe a bit earlier next year, and have a good robust plan for sharing with the public.
Yeah, I'm getting questions about taxes right now. Can I reference this material yet or share it in any way? Or?
Yeah, to Colin's point that some of the numbers aren't finalized.
Yeah, our budget is always evolving right now,
Course,
so
yes.
we're always making changes, so these aren't final numbers. They're fairly accurate. They're accurate as of a point in time, but obviously things have changed.
Yeah, it's all the way it sort of lays it out and makes it up so people cannot see what their community is paying, what other community.
This is in the agenda package, so these versions won't be shared through our other communication channels, but if anyone wanted to log in and view the agenda package, they'd be able to see these. But we won't necessarily be sharing like this version of these numbers on our website and pushing that out to residents, but it is available in the agenda package if you wanted to share with someone.
Okay, thank you.
Once the numbers are finalized, they will be updated and we'll be sharing them then as well. So they will be available. We've had a number of tools that we've utilized to date for this process, which is the online engagement platform that we have. There's a project page on there around the budget process that we've been sharing updates, and we've been linking to the meetings where the conversations have been happening and the presentations and the recordings of those meetings, and then through social media and our newsletter, directing people to that project page where they can view those meetings and the associated agenda packages with the staff reports and all of that material. So we'll continue to use those tools that we have as well once these items are finalized to get them to the public.
Thank you. I have another question which is not directly related to this, but is some.
I can come back to you because I've got two
Okay.
other people with questions on this.
Yep.
Director Hopful, go ahead.
Thank you. Excellent report. I want to thank you for the changes with regards to the library percentages. So one of my questions is on page 4, it's got library, and I realize I'm with area B there, but it's got an increase of 1.5%, but then it's got a negative amount on both the Camels Foot TV and the area library. So they're both going up, but we've got a negative. Not that I'm complaining, I'm just wondering, I'm just curious as to why.
Yeah, that is the assessment changes. So the 2026 assessment rule, and there is a chart in the report that just discusses it. So on page 3 of the report, there's that assessment change analysis, 2026 versus 2025.
Okay,
So there was an increase to the market value, which increases assessment, but also an increase to the non-market change, which is usually new inventory or larger non-market changes. And so the inventory creates a larger assessment base, which decreases the tax rates per thousand. So
Okay.
you see that even though we're requisitioning funds, the tax rate per thousand is gone down.
so on the next page, is it safe to say that the difference between the revised tax rule, and again, it's subject to change here, but the 2025 and the 2026, the difference being, I don't know, 22 plus thousand, divided by the number of parcels would be the dollar amount of the increase to our taxes? Am I reading that right?
I don't think I can answer that question because I'm not sure where you're gathering your numbers here. Let me.
You know,
Okay, just on page 5, it's got the 2026 completed rural net taxable values, and then or 2026 and 2025. So I'm just taking the difference between those two numbers, dividing them by the number of parcels, give or take.
On page 5, that's like total assessment value of the areas. So that's the BC assessment value of the district of Lillooet.
Oh, okay, I'm reading that.
On page 4, that's showing the percentage increase of the services. So for the two that you mentioned that had a tax increase in dollar value, but a
Right.
decrease in the cost per million, it just means that the assessment values of the property in that area grew faster than the increase in that specific service. So the services increased, but people's homes values have increased at a higher rate, so their actual cost per million has gone down, but it just means their house is also worth more.
Okay, and I just want to thank everybody for this report. It's an excellent report, and I really feel that attachment A or pages 11 to 19 would be a great SLRD training post-election because it's just so well defined and put out. Like I really love it. And again, just thank you for all your work and your patience in us asking all these questions that we do. Thanks.
I did want to give Colin the opportunity to speak to the infographics, but I do want to get to the full budget. Like there's a whole presentation yet to come from Suzanne. So if your question, Sal, is on the infographic, we'll go to that. Otherwise, if we can let Suzanne get into the full presentation, because we've still got lots to cover.
Yes, it's on the infographics. I want to thank the finance department and the communications department on the infographic. Looks really, really good. If I was to suggest one minor change, would be on the community specific services page for all the electoral areas, is somehow to either use background colors or something to differentiate the two the parcel tax and the requisition. When I first looked at it, it was like a little blur. But if it was highlighted either aligned on the middle or the background colors, just to identify the two different ways to get the funds. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you so much. Vivian, is there your question on the infographic or?
Well, it's preceding the infographic, and it was just the reference to
the 80,000 on, what's on page 4. About using community works funds. Will we hear about that through the chair at the EAD? When you get there? Yes.
I'm gonna bring a report forward in March 80 that has a list of all the projects for
Okay.
community works considered in this.
Okay,
in this
excellent.
budget. So you will get a detailed project report.
Okay,
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
so over to you.
All right. So today we're gonna go through those budgets that haven't yet been approved. The first one being general government services. So what I've done was updated the 2025 forecast figures and saved a little bit of funding there. And then increased some of the overhead recovery in 2026 and saved some taxation there as well. But the biggest change is for pulling some operating surplus reserve. So for the Unit 4 financial software optimization project, which is basically to get us modernized for the management team to be able to use Unit 4 as well. I'm pulling 130,000 from the operating surplus reserve, which leaves 318,538 for future. And we can always transfer more when there is a surplus in the service or projects that have savings at the end of them. We will transfer to the operating surplus reserve, but that saves a lot of taxation for this year and brings the general government budget down to a 1.8% increase or $66,703. And I'll just pause there because I'd like some feedback if this is something the board is desired to keep, or if they maybe want to adjust this from the operating surplus reserve.
I'm in support of what you've done here. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. That's in response to our conversations in January, so thank you.
Anyone else with comments at this point?
And we also have a bit of an IT summary in the report. And I'm not sure if there's specific questions on the IT budgets for 2026. We have William Ramsey, the manager of IT and Business Solutions, here to discuss that portion. So is that here?
Good morning.
Morning. I can answer anything specifically.
Does anyone have any questions on the IT portion of the?
Where did we land after our discussion about the boardroom? IT.
So no changes have been made to the numbers themselves, except for what Suzanne's mentioned in terms of the reserve being used for Unit 4.
Left everything as is.
Okay, we're still at $44,000. Go ahead.
Hi, Angela Belshman's General Manager of Corporate Services is also here for a brief overview of the IT projects and the decisions that we've made based on cutting back and using surplus.
Yeah, thank you. So in regards to the AV boardroom, what we did look is that we had some rollover from last year, so which we were hoping to do minimal upgrades, but what we quickly learned is that the equipment that we currently have in the space is becoming obsolete, and we are unable to piecemeal different pieces. So we've gone out for RFP to get a sense as to what it would look like in which to maintain the current service that we have in our boardroom so that we can continue to offer the types of meetings which are accessible to the public and for directors to attend meetings remotely, because we want to maintain that type of service. So that RFP is currently in play, and we have continued with the budget in earmarking 44,000 for that project. And what it would do is replace the current end of life system with a like for like. which would be a low support option, so that we're not requiring lots of staff in which to support the meetings that we currently provide to you and to the public and for our staff. So this addition in the budget ensures preservation of the existing experience for the public and meeting participants and compliance with our legislative requirements. Because we do have in our procedure bylaw that we will provide this type of service for the public to ensure transparency for our meetings. So we earmarked that.
And we have 4 members online that might not otherwise be able to participate today if we didn't have this service. And what we've heard is that it's pretty good. Like, people feel like they're in the room. Anyway,
That said, we're looking for a similar level of service. We're not upgrading to a Cadillac here.
No, we're not upgrading to a Cadillac. It will be a like for like meeting experience for all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Tony, you had questions?
No,
Was
right.
it separate from, no, earlier
Well,
you had a question and you're welcome to ask it now if.
okay, just a quick comment. First of all, say again, I think that's excellent what you've done. It's just what I need to help me working with residents in my area. What would also be very helpful if we can do it is just a brief schematic on the process between when we've done our final budget to how does it get from there to how much people have to pay. There are decisions made that have nothing to do with us. It could, we submit it to the government and BC assessment is involved and things like that. If we could just kind of lay that process out, because I'm constantly telling people that we're not deciding how much tax that they pay, but they don't get it. So
We do have the one slide that says how property values and services shape your property taxes in the SLRD, which does have a brief summary of kind of that process where we determine the cost and then we provide it to the province who uses BC assessments to distribute those costs in the area. But if there's anything missing from this that you get questions on that could be added to help make it more useful for residents, then please let us know, because we don't always get a ton of feedback. And so sometimes it feels like when we put something out, then that's when we receive the questions and the information that we need. It's page 12 of the agenda.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Sorry, I feel like I'm repeating myself and poking at this. I just wanna generalize my comment about the boardroom. And that's just looking at, like, if I read this right, $758,000 towards IT, and I know it's necessary, and I'm trusting that we're doing everything we need to do, security and otherwise. But just it's an incredible expense to the taxpayer when you look at that line in all of our budgets. So I have full faith and confidence, and I have that much knowledge of these things, so that's where I do place off faith and say, let's stick with the Volvos for our organization here, and I hope that's sort of the mindset that we're taking. Because I just want to point out that it seems like a really big line in our budgets. I appreciate the work that you guys do on it, and I know I know nothing about this stuff, so I appreciate what you're doing. I just wanted to make those comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
crazy.
but when you consider like 80% of the work that we do is on your
Yeah,
computer,
no, I get it.
and it's not happening on your computer, it's happening in some server room somewhere.
No,
And
I
so,
understand.
yeah, it's but good questions to ask, because I keep saying this, we are not seeing a level playing field when it comes to our finances. Like, everything is more expensive for everyone everywhere. And so we're trying to try to keep up, not be too flamboyant, but also, gone are the days of 0 tax increases and so. Go ahead.
Would the IT expenses include security for cyber attacks. Yeah, so that expense is, that's a huge expense.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's not just the hardware. it's
No,
also-
Yeah, yeah, so the budget does represent the necessary and strategic investments required around that and around maintaining core systems. And what we have seen, and we spoke to last month, is about a 30% increase in a lot of the hardware. So that is what you're seeing in this budget, which we're seeing a major increase. And then also just all of the pieces associated with managing risk. Cybersecurity audits have been done, and we're taking those audits very seriously and acting upon them. And so there is a price tag associated with that to ensure that we're maintaining all the risk associated with our systems. Yeah, and then, yeah, and then also ensuring that staff have the tools that they need to do their work on a daily basis. Yeah.
And I just, again, I'm not pushing back on any of that. I just like to be able to answer if people have the same. So I really like the answers. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Rowena, is there anything that keeps you up at night?
Talking about, you're in the office.
These cyber security investments are ongoing, and I mean, we established that that line item last year, and it's been really, really helpful for improving our systems and just already fully allocated for 2026. In terms of the planned projects. And I mean, even last week, we were experiencing a brute force attack on our firewall and no penetration, but it definitely was like sidetracking the work plan and kind of all hands on deck to deal with. And so that is just one example where we took some consulting money and just took the opportunity to improve our systems, and it's sort of just, it's gonna be never ending on that regard. And I mean, to Angela's points, like it really is for everything, resiliency and even the business improvements to utilize our systems effectively and efficiently, sort of is that continuous improvement that's required.
Okay. Well, good luck with it. Thank you.
If you need help.
Mike is gonna.
You don't need help.
Joking aside, we appreciate the work, and having gone through a cybersecurity breach, it's expensive, and anything you can do to slow them down. Because we know that it's not perfect as it evolves, and so it is not, it's not easy work that you've undertaken, and we're grateful for it, so. Okay, so Suzanne, you wanna?
So that is the presentation for general government. I don't know if at this point the board wants to approve this budget for.
Approve this budget, general government.
Okay,
For a second.
okay, any comments? Or any other questions? I don't wanna rush through this if there's anyone with anything else on general government. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next service is the land planning and zoning service. There isn't any change to this allocation. The services as was last month, sorry. However, just because I don't see any opportunity to slim this budget any further. There is limited operational surplus reserve in this service already, which is below the 2 months operating. And we have Claire Dewar, the General Manager of Planning and Zoning and Climate Action. For any specific questions.
Or I'll ask you the same thing. What keeps you up at night?
specific to budget. I'm really pleased with the budget that's being presented here today. The financial, team did an excellent job, and we've looked at it in depth, and it's exciting to see what the next 5 years will hold.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone have any questions? All right, should we move it?
Move.
Moved by Director Richmond, second by Director Burke-Jones. Any comments? Okay, all in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Claire.
And the next service is the Regional Waste Management and Planning Service. Over through infrastructure, it just changed, sorry, and environmental services. And I had to update the 2025 actuals, and unfortunately that increased the taxation slightly. And then we pulled some community works funds to cover part of the solid waste regional management plan. So in this budget, there's 80,000 being pulled. And within the actual report itself, I pulled out what that would look like balance wise for each of the areas and included the current 2026 Community Works Funds projects that haven't yet been reviewed that will be coming to the March EAD. So that's the chart on page. I think it's page 7 of the agenda, the top of the page. Shows the current allocation percent for each area, the estimated balance at the end of 2026 for the currently approved projects. The solid waste management plan, 80,000 divided by the allocation percent for each area. And then the 2026 projects not yet approved that are going to EAD to show you potentially the remaining balance of each area.
Okay, I have a question on the screen from Director Demare.
I've got two things, and I'll leave the second one for a good little discussion. But the first one is at the last board meeting, I asked if the local government climate action program funds could be used for the in-school waste educator program. Just wondering if that was investigated.
We didn't investigate that because we ended up using most of the LG cap for the transit service. And there was a change just last minute for the 2025 transit service. And so there's only 15,000 remaining for all of 2026. So if there isn't anything, if there still isn't any use of that funds, we could pull it to cover that program.
Yeah,
Qualify.
I'd like to see that. My second one is 80,000 from electoral areas community works funds. Since this is the regional tax service and the municipalities pay into it, and they actually pay quite a bit more than what the electoral area directors do, but they also have community works funds. Why wouldn't they be able to pay into it also through their community works funds?
Normally it's a service of the SLRD, but there is the potential that there's support for offsetting taxation from the municipalities as well. It hasn't been looked at.
We have enormous budgets to cover as well with the community works funds that the municipalities get, so it's yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, it is a regional tax service. And the whole concept of this is that the whole region develops that plan. So why wouldn't they contribute to that plan?
We have our own transfer stations in our municipalities that we pay for.
Yeah, but so do we. We pay for our transfer station too. I pay for ours, plus Area A pays for our transfer station and the Lillooet transfer station. I'm throwing that out because I think it's something that we need to start looking at. And I'd like to get that investigated. If I got to make a motion, I'll make a motion.
I'm just gonna go to the CAO for some feedback.
Hi, and I will also look at general manager back here to follow up on this one. There was a discussion during the solid waste management plan, and there was some conversation during that large project, that's a multi-year project, to look at the consideration of consolidating regional this service into a responsibility of the SLRD. I believe that the District of Squamish has requested that as a potential thing to look into. It's a multi-year project. Some things that come up is the thought that Pemberton's transfer station is used by people outside of Pemberton. Whistler's transfer station is used by other areas outside of Whistler. And so that's what's going to be analyzed in that discussion. So it's a much more complex, but it is on the radar.
And would it include Lillooet as well?
Yeah, the way district levy, the dream would be one tax service.
Yeah.
To manage all of it, because
Yeah.
it makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
But right now, Area A does pay for the transfer station and the Lillooet landfill, and that's because from the transfer station, it ends up in the Lillooet.
Right, right.
And for other reasons, but I'm gonna also.
Well, specific to the request from District of Squamish, we did have discussions with our consultant about is that part of the solid waste management plan? And they see that as being something completely separate, and as in that it could distract from the purpose of the solid waste management plan. It's more about who is doing it than what we're doing. It's not like if we did take it over, we'd suddenly change everything that they're doing. They're doing great work as well. And then there's, is it a new cost service, alternate approval process? There's a huge discussion there. So we're not looking at that as part of this update. But we will look at the financial aspect of how everyone's paying into the plan. Because there are, we're seeing that with their, Divine is, we have issues with such a small tax service and operating that service. But I don't know how much I can add to the specific about community works funds at municipalities.
Right. I have.
I'm not.
And yeah, you can go back. Go ahead.
Well, if we're not going to be able to use municipalities' community works funds, then I suggest we just take that 80,000 and put it into tax requisition. What would the change be in tax requisition? We need to keep our community works funds for our what we have in our communities.
This is in your community.
Yeah.
This is part of all of our communities, part of the whole regional district, and the community work funds that come to the regional district are to support regional district activities, of which this is one. So I think the expectation that municipalities are gonna pull out of there and put in here is really, really, I'll be frank, unreasonable. I won't be supporting either of these motions here. The Community Works Fund comes to the regional district to pay for us to decide how to offset some of our costs within the regional district. These are functions, and as you pointed out, the municipalities pay the vast majority of the service already. So I really not liking where we're going with this. Community Works Fund is something we decide as a group for this board, for this greater community. So my comments on that.
And just to comment on Sal's request, the change would be a 50% increase over last year, or $101,890 requisition.
Director Pettingill, you had your hand up. Okay. Director Demare, do you have anything else that you wanted to add? You said you had a second part.
That was the second part.
Okay. Anyone else? In the room or on the screen? Okay, so what I'm hearing is that this is ongoing work to understand. But I think that we're at kind of the best place we're gonna land with this particular budget item.
This budget.
Okay, I have a motion to approve this budget. Director Richmond, seconded by Director Morton. Comments?
I'll be voting against it.
Okay. Director Pettingill?
Yeah, I'll just take this opportunity. I think if we're going to go down this path and trying to parse out which person's paying for which piece and which services do we get, then we need to pull apart, I think, general government and all the things. And I'm not sure that maybe we want to go down that path. I think that's a much bigger process than, in my mind, than picking out just one service and trying to do that. I just want to touch base too on the solid waste plan and what it includes. Part of what I had in mind when talking about, is there a regional district role to take over the whole thing, is like Whistler's shipping garbage outside of the region. Does it make sense for Squamish to take that? And some of those conversations, I've actually talked to some solid waste people that says, actually, no, what you're doing probably makes more sense. And so maybe this isn't a path we want to go down, but for me, that discussion isn't completely closed. I don't think that's a budget thing, but I just wanted to flag, maybe we need to touch base at some point on what our expectations of what we're grappling with in the solid waste management plan.
Okay, thank you, Chris. That was helpful.
Just on that, I think those are absolutely part of the solid waste, that those discussions are part of the solid waste management plan on where everybody's moving their waste, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Did I call the question? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carried. Oh, opposed is Director Demare. Tony, are you opposed?
No.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
Great. The next service for review is the Squamish District Community Swimming Pool. And that's attachment D. It starts on page 35 of the package. And the taxation level hasn't changed from last month when this was reviewed, but the changes to the fixed asset for 2026. So I confirmed with District Squamish that a lot of those 2025 assets are already in the 2026 fixed assets that were just changed and modified. And so the increase was to transfer to reserve, so we can pull that for 2027's fixed assets. And if you look at the page 38, you'll see the 5-year plan, which does include potentially some grant funding and some borrowing, as there is a lot of asset replacements for 2027 as well.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I heard, I recall discussing this a few years ago now, that it was, there was a time limit to this particular service. That it existed for X number of years and then it stopped.
I think you were just referring to the debt servicing. So there was discussion about District Squamish taking over the swimming pool after the debt servicing has been completed. But that will be many years now, because there was, I'll just actually open up the exact when that debt is matured, 2037. So the current debt on the Squamish pool matures in 2037, and at that point.
2037?
Yeah. Eventually, District Squamish wants to take it over that point, and then this would change to just a financial contribution service, like similarly to the permanent recreation service. That's a potential. It hasn't been finalized, it's just discussions.
Yeah. not sure I want to make this comment here, but no, I'll raise it another time. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Squamish? No? Okay. Go ahead.
I just had one, just because I'm super curious about pools and I see how expensive this is, this. And well worth it. Zeros, all the box, talking about the pool lights, the plumbing, the heating. I just wondered, was that payment in lieu of taxes contribution or a community works funds contribution? All those lovely zeros.
Oh, those were the 2025 amounts that I had originally carried forward into 2026. And then discovered that they were already within the 2026.
Ah, beautiful.
below. So
Okay.
they're just showing as changed zeros.
Thank you.
Okay. Someone like to move it? Moved by Director French, seconded by Director Morton. Comments? No. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Next service for review is the Lillooet Area Rescue Service. This is a shared service between Lillooet Area A and Area B. And the change was to add a transfer from Area B Tilt. There was a suggestion. So that is shown as a $16,000 $743 transfer, leaving the taxation flat to last year. And I'll just open up for any questions on that.
Any questions? No? No? Okay.
It's good with me. Yep.
Yeah.
Prepared to move it.
Okay, moved by Director Birch Jones, seconded by Director Mayor.
And I'll bring a report
Yep.
to the March board on all of these funding. needs.
March is gonna be a very expensive month.
Bring the checkbook.
My pencil and eraser. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, all in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, the next service is the Lillooet Area Refuse Service, which is the landfill. And it's attachment I, page 43, it starts. And there was some changes in this service. I updated the forecast figures, increased some of the tipping fees. And also decrease the transfer to capital just to save some funding for this year. It'll be back to 7. The capital reserve is fairly healthy at 661,964.
Indeed.
The surplus reserve is slightly low from the 2 months operating, so when there is any surplus available, we'll transfer that in future years. And questions on this service specifically?
Okay, Director Hopfull, I see your hand.
Thank you. I just wanted to say too that the growing community fund actually allocated $250,000 to the landfill. So it is still sitting there. So I just wanted to point that out. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, would someone like to move this budget? Director Birch Jones, seconded by Director Hopfull. Comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Right, and the next service is the Lillooet Camel Split TV and radio rebroadcasting service, which is shared service between Lillooet and Area B, a specified service area of Area B, not all of Area B. And this attachment J, it is the same level of taxation as was last month, that's shown last month. And because there was conversations between the society and finance staff, in Colin, and they do request this level of funding and potentially more. And so we were thinking that we'll keep this taxation level. If they do require more, they can request it as an additional supplemental fundings.
From Area B Pill. Or possibly Community Works funds, depending. Yes,
Right? Would you like to move it?
yeah, I know there's a backlog of expenses coming here and I know staff are fully aware. So yes, I'd like to move this.
Okay, moved by Director Birchstones and seconded by Director Morton. Comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Now, the final budget for review is the Lillooet Area B Library Service. This is shared between the District of Lillooet and all of Area B. And this starts at attachment K on page 51, and it's a 1% increase over last year. And that's been adjusted based on a new request for funding we received.
And I'm prepared to move this one as well.
Okay. Seconded by Director Hoppel. Comments? All right. Favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Our local libraries are our community living rooms, and we're very lucky for all of the work that they do. We're lucky for all of these services, but I feel particularly attached to our libraries. Okay, where are we going next, Susan?
I'll just mention that the full financial plan is pretty up to date as of what you're seeing today. I just updated it last week, and that's on the budget talks web page on the engagement platform. And there's also a link in my attachments to this 5-year financial plan on page 20, attachment C. You'll just see a link at the very bottom of the full draft financial plan. It doesn't have the infographics in there at this time, but it will very shortly. We just wanted to have one of those infographics first. And I just wanted to mention that it's there. It's fairly accurate as to current.
Okay. Great, so much. Thank you. Yeah.
And just to repeat some of the comments earlier, I think this has been one of the smoothest budget processes I've been part of here. From step one, to right through today, and what you're bringing to the community with the infographics and what you guys have worked on, I guess the whole package has been really great. So thank you.
Yeah, I know that this has been a heavy lift for everyone, and thank you. Vivian, go ahead.
One more question about communications. In years previous, the area directors have been able to include a little blurb with the statement that goes out to the electoral area residents.
Property tax insert.
Yes. Is that enough? And I know it's just a paragraph. This is top quality communication, what you've done here. That this, I'm not sure that we need that blurb, but I was wondering, will we be having that? Should we be planning to do that? Yeah. Okay.
Maybe even if it just directed people to this information on our website, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but when I tell people in area B to go to the website, they never do. But they'll read something.
Yeah.
But yes, it's certainly there and available to anybody. Yep, thank you. Okay, so that is still part of it. Good to know.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Vivian, do you want a 5-minute stretch?
Yes.
Moving on, we are at 5.3, and this is an information report regarding the Q4 strategic plan progress report, and we've got everyone here to talk about it. Are we starting with Patricia?
Yeah, I'll start. My name is Patricia Westerholm, and I'm the Director of Communications and Engagement at the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. And I'm joined today with my colleagues from the leadership team. And we're here today to speak to the Q4 progress report and information report that is in your agenda package. Happy to answer any questions that may arise with regard to the report, but of course we'll direct any project specific questions to the appropriate department head or the CAO. Some things that we just wanted to highlight with this progress report. This report that's in the agenda package includes a list of completed items in 2025, which we haven't, they've been incorporated into the main report in the past and haven't been pulled out into their own section. But wanted to do that, just given that this one is also looking ahead to the rest of 2026. This report coming to you at this time aligns with the new schedule of this building. So the next time you will see a progress report will be in July 2026. We moved away from the quarterly reporting. Give us a bit more time to advance the projects and just keeping in mind staff capacity and the amount of work that goes into producing the actual report. Some highlights to note in this report, as noted, it's the fourth report coming to you in this format. In looking back at the reports that we produced last year, did notice that with each report, there was an increase in the number of projects featured. So for example, when we first brought this to you in April 2025, the progress report included 87 projects. When we came back in July 2025, that number had gone up to 96. And in October 2025, it was at 109. And this one for 2026 includes 90 projects in total. And that's 67 carried over from 2025 and 23 new projects that we're aware of at this point in 2026. And then there's an additional list of 39 completed projects outside of that number. So what we saw in 2025, obviously, was that as we advanced work, we were also adding additional work to the progress report under the strategic priority areas of the board. And just a reminder that the items contained in the progress reports do not reflect the work that goes into the day-to-day operations of the organization and of managing each department. Within the report, we've also slightly tweaked the format this time around to add a column that aligns with the regional growth strategy goals that align with the strategic priority areas. So the board may recall that when we developed the priority areas a couple of years ago that are in the strategic plan, we did look at the regional growth strategy at that time and had Claire with us at a meeting where we looked. The regional growth strategy has 11 goals, and typically a strategic plan does not have 11 priority areas. But we did do some work to look at those RGS goals and then take the priority areas and they were developed based on the themes that emerge from the board's strategic planning workshops. So then we just made sure that those 6 priority areas that are featured in the strategic plan that are kind of the big buckets, if you will, do align with the RGS goals. So all of the 11 RGS goals can be attributed to each priority area as well. So for example, if we looked at under the priority area of community well-being and livability, the RGS goals that align with that strategic priority area are goal number 2, to improve transportation linkages and options. Goal number 3, generate a range of affordable housing options. Then there's some other goals around sustainable economies, enhancing food systems, and so on. So we don't need to go through all of those, but just wanted to demonstrate that we are connecting all of the dots between the work and the priority areas and the RGS goals. I think those are the main highlights. This report also includes the number of projects, as I said, that were completed in 2025 by priority area, and then breaks them down into the number of projects by priority area that are carried over as well, and then the status of those projects. So within the main progress report, you won't see any completed items in those columns, and that's just because we've moved those out as they were completed in 2025 into their own section. And then when we come back in July, we would of course expect that some of these projects will have moved into the completed status at that time as well. So I think the team is happy to answer any questions if there's questions about projects, and Angela and Heather as well.
Okay. Sorry. Did you want to?
She nailed it.
You nailed it.
Maybe quickly, that's all.
Betsy, go ahead.
Just for my own well-being knowledge, is this typical that 90 projects carried over? Like, is that what was 2024?
Well, this was the first time we brought this forward in 2025. It was the first time we've presented it in this
Okay.
format. So we'd have to go back and look at other iterations that had come to the board to do a bit of a comparison. It would be a little bit of apples and oranges just because we hadn't presented it in this format
Okay.
in the past, but I defer to CAO.
And the projects that are carried over, is there a common theme among them? Like, why are they, so many carried over?
I do want to point out that some of these are multi-year projects, so they're
Yes.
carried over
Okay.
for that reason, and that could be the most part, and then delays are very much variable. I think we just heard the manager of IT talk about cyber attacks, delay work plans. I mean, it is very much a variety of reasons why things got delayed. Most of them are carried over because they're multi-year.
Thank you.
Director Demare?
Yes, thank you. I've got one in emergency planning and response recovery. It's the Volunteer Fire Department Equipment and Training Fund. And received 183,000 of CEPF funding. And just wonder, how will the funding be distributed and which fire departments are eligible?
Thank you for the question, Director Mayor, through the chair. The application was through CPF, and this was a 2025 project that was carried forward. We were able to get a 1-year extension on this project. So this was done in collaboration with the fire departments, the structure fire departments, or those that are working towards OFC compliance. So each fire department was eligible up to $40,000, and this funding includes the SLRD fire departments, Britannia Beach and Garibaldi. So, for example, we put an application on behalf of Pemberton Meadows, but Braeborn did their own application. So it's not every fire department, but it was in partnership, and we support their applications.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good.
Thank you. I had a few questions, but sort of the first time when I saw there were 5 I'm so disappointed that the climate action is a red dot. I've said that before, but I recognize there's a lot going on and there's a lot being carried forward. But there were 5 projects in the climate action that were carried forward. I'm going back to, I think I put that up on page 57. And if I have that right. Yeah. What are the projects that are carried over those 5 projects? No, I got it.
Page 57?
Yes, although I noticed my pages were different from Suzanne's. when she was
Those are
there.
on top, man, I don't know.
I'm on
Oh.
I'm on the original package. Yeah, which we're still working with. Yeah, we didn't have an updated committee of the whole. So on page 57, there's a number of projects that are carried over under climate action and sustainability. There's 5 of them.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yes.
I mean, I thank you through the chair, Claire Dewar, Director of Planning and Development Services. I can speak to the Regional Growth Strategy, Climate Action Prioritization and Implementation Strategy, which does have the red dot as in not started.
Yep.
This is reflecting a board resolution back from 2025, and we are part of the process there was to adopt the updated policies and strategic directions under climate action in the regional growth strategy, which was completed in 2025. And now it'll be seeking resourcing to action this work. And that work will be in that would be involving the board to prioritize the strategic directions specifically to that goal within the regional growth strategy.
You just know that within the Pacific Institute for Climate Action have an offer. It's closed for this year, but they have interns, like student interns, that can come and help local governments with implementing climate action plans. And maybe this is a suggestion for the SLRD. I get it that our resources are stretched pretty much. Okay, thank you.
And the next couple more are they're multi-year projects that have been in there.
Is it climate action?
Yes.
Yeah, the solid waste management, I guess these are the 5, solid waste management plan update, it's multi-year.
Right. Maybe the land back, possibly. Or the land acquisition, agricultural land. I just thought that might be one of the projects.
Heather?
Thanks, I don't see it here on this sheet, so I would look at, I would like to say, I'd probably just in general say all of those remaining ones are multi-year. And some of them are in partnership with other communities as well, so we rely on their timelines as well too. And the one thing I did miss was one other reason for delay is adding more projects in, will delay.
Yeah.
Others.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Director Pattengill has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks. And just following up a little bit on Director Birch Jones's question, making sure I understand. So with the RGS, we've you know, added some and refined some of the policy around climate action. The stuff that is now to be prioritized, are we doing that prioritization at the moment in our budget decisions? And so that will sort of, the prioritization is happening now, and then the budget will allow us to do what we decide this year, or we will sort of work on the prioritization. The next board will sort of finalize that in the 2027 budget, and then these things will happen.
Can I get some clarification on that? So is your question asking at what point of these items should we be prioritizing again? Or are you thinking of other items that are in the queue, which we may not know about, we may know about? And where is the opportunity for the board to prioritize that? Is that the question prior to the budget?
I think for now, it's just focusing more on the specific. There was a reference made to we will be prioritizing some of what came out of the RGS work, and then moving forward based on how we prioritize. So is that we're doing that prioritization with the 2026 budget, or that really gets finalized with the 2027 budget?
Yeah, so thank you through the chair. The work to prioritize the strategic directions within the regional growth strategy to help provide that implementation for climate action in general, that work is like to come, and we have a timeline of Q4 2027. So that is a long timeline. We have a number of projects that our planning department has within this sort of strategic plan report, and part of what we're trying to figure out is which project we can do this year and which project we can do next year, given our current staff resourcing. So we have the information to do the prioritization, and then the implementation would come out of that. And based on our current staffing, we'll be chipping away at it over the next couple of years. I look at some of these things and I think that some of them won't necessarily have a complete status beside them. Like, it's gonna be a living, working document, right? Like I look at the regional disaster debris management plan, I look at the fire smart plan, and those things will just continue to go. So it's not necessarily that they'll be completed. Is there another document that it moves into that's a more living document? I guess this is, but does that make sense? It's not necessarily gonna ever be completed. It will always be ongoing.
Could you just have a category that's called ongoing?
Rather than multiple,
Well, we've got
multi-year.
We got there at the moment. We've got 3: complete, in progress, and not started. And what you're suggesting is that some things, once they've started, they will never end, and they shouldn't end. It's an ongoing process.
Yeah. And that's good.
Oh, yeah, I'm not
Here.
good.
Hi, everyone. For similar to like building a bridge, capital projects, the project is complete, but then it moves into operations and it's an ongoing project. So completing that plan is part of the project. And then for operations, it would be what's our timeline for opening up and reviewing it, and what's our timeline for managing it. So that's where it does complete, but it's not shelved. It's part of our operations.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And I will add, just through the chair, that we also add ongoing in the timeline when we have a project that we know there's not really a completion date for it. And then through the general manager, protective and services and emergency management. I think that's right.
That's.
The project that we would complete the 2025 Fire Smart program, for example, but then we would move in 2026 program is a new Fire Smart program.
But it's not a project.
But it's not a project, but we're also not noting specifically with each project that all of the facets and the components of that project, right? Because if you looked at all of these projects, for example, in this progress report, potentially have a communications plan, for example, attached to them, or a budget consideration, or other work. It is, again, it's operational, but it supports the project, so it's not capturing, it's not a perfect science. And we have departmental work plans as well, that where we would take the components of a project and break those down in a work plan that we have internally as our.
I just think of if someone were to look at this and they're like, oh, well, this has been ongoing for so long, are they actually gonna be finishing it? But it's like, actually, this is ongoing.
There's no end date.
Yeah. You're always doing this work.
Right.
Yeah, and just in terms of the Fire Smart program, we treat that as a yearly project. So we apply for the funds and then we close that project and then we add on 2026 project and then 2027. And same thing for the disaster relief project, that will have that date. But I think that's part of the, I know under emergency planning, we do have about advocacy related to landslide hazards as an ongoing project.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe something that, yeah, does it have a start and end date, or is it just a regular piece of work, or maybe it needs to be defined as this is the advocacy we are doing for that particular time period.
And similar to the conversation around the budget cones, like we're always looking for feedback on how to best present this information, for sure. So fully expect that when we come back in July, this might look a little bit different as well. So feedback is really helpful, and always looking to refine it.
I really like it. It's nice to read and see.
Thank you through the chair. I wanted to add to the conversation around climate action, as this was raised, is like, and just to highlight that a lot of work is being done by our organization on climate action. And that is part of our ongoing, and all departments connect to that work. And these 5 projects here are like really big projects. And you know, one, we're looking at a 10-year update to a management plan. This prioritization of the regional growth strategy strategic directions, that's like, what does the board want us, like, we have these goals and strategic directions in our RGS, those are already informing the work we do every day. And then this is just working with the board. Do we want to prioritize some of that work and be a bit more proactive? That's not to say that we aren't taking action on climate with every decision that we bring to the board table, and how we consider applications that come forward and whatnot. So I think just building on the conversation, there is this ongoing operations. I think it was really awesome to highlight through our regional growth strategy indicator monitoring work, what, like, all the work that happens and how that contributes to our goals. And one of those goals is specifically around climate action. And there is work to be done, but there also has been a lot of really great progress made specific to climate action. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I don't see any hands on the screen. Anyone else with anything else? Okay, nice.
Great snapshot. I'd like to move receipt.
Receipt. Thank you, by Director Rainbow. Comment?
I'm just thinking on that and listening to your comments. I wonder if we could add a that would say something to that effect, that this is advocacy work, like, just so that if someone were to come and look at this, that they know that this is going to be going on forever.
Yeah.
Like, well, certain things, like the Fire Smart is not something that we're gonna be completed in 2026. It's going to carry on, or I don't know, is that?
Go ahead.
Yeah, when we look at this, we consider a million columns, and actually there are way more columns in our version. And how we kind of get to certain decisions is the Fire Smart program, for example, is funded for the next 2 years. We don't know what. And there have been some significant announcements around that. So that's kind of how we see it. It's like, let's put this on as a project. It's not yet operations because the tax service isn't paying for it as of yet.
I just think about Claire's comment and it was really good, and maybe that could be included in the comments, like this is advocacy work that we will carry on in other operations.
Yeah, it takes a bit of background to understand. You know, that these are funded, these, you know, they're funded but waiting, they're not funded or they're grant funded, that they're not attached to a full-time, long-term employee. You know, we're using consultants to do this work, like there's a million ways that you could look at these and say, this is the work we're doing. And I think at the end of the day, all of this is a part of the community education on where their tax money is going.
Exactly, yeah.
And just to wrap it up, we're always looking for ways to fill some of the blank spaces. You notice we've added some callouts to this report to get people to go to the website or talk about these projects. So we can take that feedback and create another call out, almost like an ad that educates people. So that's really
Yeah.
helpful.
Sorry, I don't wanna give you guys more work.
Go ahead, John.
As an alternate director, and someone who doesn't spend a lot of time thinking about and reviewing the regional district strategic plan, I found all of this to be appropriately concise and well put together and helpful. So notwithstanding the feedback from my colleague, I see that there could be value in an additional column or adding that information. And then when I look at what's in front of me, I think that this is a good representation of what most people are probably looking for in a document like this.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll call a question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Everyone. Okay, 5.4. And this is regarding our governance excellence initiative project regarding the procedure bylaw review. Morning.
Thank you. Okay, Raylene Reedville, Legislative Coordinator. So today's report brings you an update on the Governance Excellence Initiative Procedure Bylaw Review and also presents the draft bylaw. It is proposed bylaw number 1899 2026. What year are we in? So as an update on the project progress and as outlined in the report, all 5 phases of part 1 related to information gathering and development for recommendations has been completed. And as a reminder, part 1 phases included the board survey and then analyzed survey results that staff used to bring focused recommendations to you. And then your subsequent meeting discussions resulted in specific direction from the Policy Development and Review Committee and the board. So of course, just want to thank you very much for all of your input and your direction to this point. So this draft proposed bylaw really anchors what you've told staff. In the survey, you told us that the current bylaw is pretty effective. And in the areas that needed some updates, staff really looked to what the member municipalities were doing and other regional districts just to bring a lens of common practice. Yet we really wanted to make sure that this proposed bylaw is tailored to the established practices and the needs of the SLRD board. So hopefully you'll see that today. So this brings us to project part 2, and it has a focus on bylaw refinement and then getting to the bylaw adoption. And the goal today is to gather any feedback that you might have on the draft proposed bylaw. And we also are looking to gain an understanding of how ready you think the bylaw is ready to move forward to the board for consideration. And this is because the legislative public notice needs to run for once each week for 2 consecutive weeks in the regional newspapers. So staff really aim to advertise the board's intent to consider the proposed procedure bylaw once committee of the whole has kind of indicated that it's essentially ready for board consideration of readings and adoption. As you've seen throughout the project, this is a repeal and replacement of the current bylaw. So getting feedback at this stage at committee of the whole can really help minimize the possibility of amendments, which are possible anytime after any reading, but this can support an efficient path towards bylaw adoption that's easy for the public to understand and also to follow along with us. So to support your discussions today in a focused way, there is a attachment in the report, attachment C. You'll see it's page 89 of the whole agenda package or page 6 of the staff report. And it summarizes the endorsed staff recommendations and the specific policy committee and board direction. All of those things have been incorporated into the draft proposed bylaw as incorporated elements 1 through 20. So I would just like to propose that we use that as our guide for your discussions this morning. I have grouped all of the elements that are like together, and I have prepared a very short overview of each element. I feel like maybe this could set the stage for you, answer any initial questions, and then we could open the floor to any comments or feedback or refinements that you have. And then that way I can capture those and we can bring that back. At the end of the discussions today, hopefully the committee could indicate whether the bylaw is ready to proceed to the board for consideration, of course, with any direction that you provide, or whether it should return to committee of the whole for another round of review first. I do want to mention with this approach, you might notice that we'll jump around a little bit in the bylaw document. The table of incorporated elements is grouped by theme rather than the order of the bylaw provisions, but that is pretty minimal. And like I said, I will flag the relevant sections of the bylaw as we go along, so I will help. And of course, if there's other parts of the bylaw that you'd like to discuss that aren't included in the table, we can address those as well. How does that sound? Sounds really good. Okay, fantastic. I'd love to lead you through that. So I do have element 1, which was an endorsed staff recommendation. This was just to update the style, the format, and to use simplified, modernized language. Hopefully you see this here. The bylaw is divided into 9 parts with clear numbered headings and subheadings. Those are the provisions, and they're moved around a little bit just for some logical sequencing in the bylaw. Yep. Also, hopefully you'll see a consistent language style within the bylaw and throughout the document, including gender neutral language. And we looked at words like forthwith, and we replaced it with the word immediately. So
You get that at once.
we've intentionally done that to just kind of increase the general understanding and the accessibility of the document. And then another example just for this element I want to flag is that you'll see both the terms director and member are defined in the draft proposed bylaw, and it's used throughout. This is in alignment with the work that you did with the SLRD Code of Conduct bylaw, and so there's going to be some consistency between those 2 documents as well. So was there any feedback related to element 1, the format and style?
I love terms like forthwith, but I can live with it.
You'll find them in other places for sure.
I think this is great.
Okay, thanks. Okay, element 2, that the draft proposed bylaw align with legislative requirements. So this is minor for the current bylaw was really well aligned with the legislation already, but the draft does strengthen that by using language that refers to legislation and directs us to the relevant part of the legislation, but doesn't include it verbatim. And we talked about that early in the project, that was something we would intentionally do. This can help with management of the bylaw if there's legislative changes in the future. As well, you'll notice some consistent legislative citations throughout the draft bylaw. The approach we took was that where the Local Government Act authorizes a provision of the Community Charter, the Local Government Act is cited in our bylaw. And again, was done intentionally with your values of public engagement and transparency and also accessibility in mind. Then readers kind of can gain a clear understanding of how the 2 statutes relate. And it'll also be helpful for staff and elected officials when you're interpreting or applying the bylaw. Like a helpful little breadcrumb. Is there any feedback on that? That was a minor element. Okay, moving on, element 3 was to introduce a provision that authorizes the corporate officer to correct minor clerical errors in adopted minutes and bylaws. that do not affect the substance. So these are only things like spelling, numbering, or formatting for convenience. There's two new provisions. It's 20.3 in the meeting minutes section and 32.3 of the bylaw records section. Back in these ones.
Makes sense.
Fantastic. Moving on, sorry. No, you're good. Thank you. Okay, elements 4 and 5 are grouped together. This is related to the election of the chair and the vice chair. An endorsed staff recommendation was to expand the current provision using a hybrid model for chair and vice chair elections. And also the committee and board directed that candidates nominated for the office of chair and vice chair could have the opportunity, but not be required, to address the board prior to an election for up to 3 minutes. So this is incorporated as element 6.1, and it applies to the election of the vice chair 7.1.
Does that mean that if it's a hybrid meeting, the person doesn't have to be in the meeting, they could be, okay.
Yeah.
Because that's not the case at
Because
the
that's
moment.
not currently the case.
No, okay, so it changes that.
Yeah.
Okay,
It will streamline this process for the board.
sure.
And it was, this approach was also widely seen when we looked at other procedure bylaws. Okay, elements 6, 7, and 9 were directed not to be included in the bylaw. So I'm just going to move on to element 8, if that's okay. They're included in the table for information and clarity. But element 8 was an endorsed staff recommendation that a provision be included that the board adopt a meeting schedule for the next year. And it's provision 9.1. It simply formalizes what the board already does in practice, and it further supports transparency and public engagement here. Any feedback for that one?
Good.
Are you happy with that? You don't want the calendar just to be willy-nilly. We'll
Just make it up as we go.
Okay, very good.
Thank you. Okay, elements 10 and 11. See, we're halfway through. Endorsed staff recommendation was to simplify the current agenda provision. And then the committee and board directed that the provision for late agendas remain the same, meaning no prescribed time frame. And this is provision 15.1 in the draft proposed bylaw. It's very similar to that of the current bylaw. It's just been simplified and reorganized. Elements 12 and 13 are grouped together. An endorsed staff recommendation to update the section heading to delegations and invited presentations, and to also simplify those associated provisions. And also another endorsed staff recommendation, element 13, to expand the current provision to specify additional circumstances that a delegation shall not be permitted to address a meeting of the board or the committee. So overall, this section was really simplified for readability and accessibility for the public, including our potential delegations, and aims to support your values of efficiency and transparency.
I see a question from Director Pettengill. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple things. One, a quick comment on the late agenda items. I agree with not putting it in the procedures bylaw, but I will flag, I do sort of find it difficult to absorb and give late items the attention I sometimes feel they deserve. And so maybe we have a practice of not doing that, and maybe that's something that we talk about, but I'm comfortable not having something stricter in the actual bylaw. Just leave that comment. I wanted to check on it's 19.3, section 19.3, I think, which is the what a delegation would be rejected or allowed to speak about. And the one piece I had a concern about is outside of the regional district's jurisdiction, and what exactly we mean by jurisdiction there, because there are things like with healthcare, conservation, and so on, that we don't directly regulate, but we advocate on. Our community has interest in those things. And so, you know, I know we don't want to say, hey, come and speak about anything and everything anytime you want, but I think there is a significant category of things that are quite relevant, at least to our advocacy role. And so I want to make sure that we're not precluding those. We're not overwhelmed with delegations right now, I think. So Just want to dig into that a little bit, what we mean by jurisdiction as a starter.
You want me to speak to it?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
I
you.
think we're very careful about, and we don't get a lot of requests for delegation that don't fit within the regional district, but it would be strange to have an organization come to advocate for something to happen within a different regional district. For example, they want to talk to us about something that should happen over on the Sunshine Coast Regional District. It would be strange to have someone coming advocating for something that should happen at the federal level. It would be strange to have someone come and speak about something that has nothing to do with local government at all. So, we try and keep it to the business of the local government, or what I've seen in other regions is they're talking about something that's already happened. It's already been decided. And so there's nothing that can be done. So it's nice to know, it's good information. It might be very interesting, but it doesn't influence the work that it may color the thought for the regional district, but it can no longer be changed. And so those are the things that we would be particularly careful about. But I think that's really at the discretion of the corporate officer and then the chair.
Thank you, through the chair. And our process will always remain that any delegation that we receive will come to the corporate department and always shared with the CAO and the chair for decisions on whether or not it should be coming to the board. Yeah.
Okay, I guess just the way it's worded, I just am a little bit apprehensive that we don't end up in a place where we don't just sort of automatically, if there's something about healthcare or air quality or whatever, which is impacting local residents, that's not an immediate disqualification from a delegation necessarily.
Yeah, I don't think there's a disqualification process that doesn't go past the chair and the vice chair, and it's
I can't recall a time when somebody has been told they can't present to the
Right.
board.
Yeah.
And I don't really recall any delegations that I thought shouldn't have been here either.
Yeah, I agree. Our practice has been to allow those things. I think it makes sense, but just this wording to my mind is very strong. And I'm wondering if this sort of wording requires us to change our practice. And that's where I have some, I wonder if we need to soften some of that wording a little bit.
Okay.
Mike and then Heather.
Good.
Heather?
I just off the top of my head suggest that outside of the jurisdiction of responsibility or advocacy, because I believe that would capture because for example, we have roads that we're advocating for. It's outside of our jurisdiction, but we are strongly advocating for it. And another example is we have funding that supports program, and sometimes we decide not to because it's a provincial jurisdiction. So perhaps jurisdiction outside the jurisdiction of SLRD's responsibility or advocacy, or we can come back with something else.
Yeah.
But yeah, make it a little broad in the opportunity in the language a little bit. I agree with Chris on that. That caught me too.
I could see my.
Yeah.
That's broad.
Yeah.
Pretty broad.
Yeah.
This decision.
Yeah. And I think there's part of the agenda setting is the responsibility to make sure that this is going to keep us on track. Yeah. Okay, carry on.
Okay, I have captured that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we good to move on to element 14?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So this one is committee and board direction, and for this one, the board directed staff to remove the provision for directors' reports as an available heading on meeting agendas, and to enhance the existing provision related to notice of motion, and to also just outline a clear process for directors getting items of business onto an agenda with collaboration between the director, the corporate officer, the CAO, and the chair. And you'll see that here in the provision.
Great.
Okay. Elements 15 and 16 are together. This was to introduce items removed from the consent agenda as a heading. This will increase meeting efficiency for you.
Yes.
Widely used. Committee and board direction that the order of proceedings and business be reorganized with delegations, invited presentations, and also time staff reports just moved to be near the start of a regular meeting prior to a closed session. And then the reference to any fixed times for those related agenda items just be removed from the procedure bylaw. You might still see them in an agenda, but not be referred to in the procedure bylaw, which prescribes those things. And so the two elements are incorporated into the section and will really support effective scheduling of delegations and presentations. Since, as you know, the duration of closed meeting sessions can be unpredictable. And so again, we're enhancing transparency and public engagement here.
What are you saying?
I'm just thinking of scheduling.
Absolutely, and you want to give certainty to people that are taking their time to come and present to us, and I much prefer having them at the beginning of the day because that's the most predictable time of the day.
Indeed.
So,
We're all
And
awake,
those watching as well.
that's right.
and we're all awake.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, but it's also tricky if a delegation comes and then we're not going to be talking about that bylaw until potentially the next day. And so whenever we can group these things together, group correspondence with the bylaw that it refers to, or any packaging of a single item is always my preference because I get confused. Go ahead.
But we do that through changing the agenda at the time of the meeting, right? So yeah, okay.
Yeah. But
Just like you have done. We'll hear from the agriculture group and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah. It just, when it gets,
Meeting by meeting.
that's right. Yeah. Okay.
Element 17, endorse staff recommendation to introduce a provision and then expand and simplify the current provisions. This is within the interpretation, application for rules of procedure and conduct at meetings. So in section 3, the interpretation section, staff just parsed out the interpretation provision of the current bylaw. It was embedded into an interpretation, or sorry, a rules of procedure area. And so we just threw that out and also created a section for it and suggested 2 other provisions in the section which are common practice and widely found in other regional district procedure bylaws. Did you need any more details on those?
Yes.
Great. Item provision 3.2 is to address the hierarchy of definitions and words and phrases within the bylaw. So it's our bylaw, then the Local Government Act, and then the Interpretation Act. And then the second added one was provision 3.3, which is that the headings of the bylaw are for convenience only. Again, both very common practices, and just wanted to embed those into the procedure bylaw for you. Section 4 is now called the application of rules and procedure. And there was the regional district hospital board is just inserted in there. And the language is updated in that provision that addresses the hierarchy of our rules of order for the bylaw. It's this bylaw, the act or the charter, and then Robert's Rules of Order newly revised. So jumping a little further into bylaw section 22, this is the conduct at meetings section. You'll see a new provision here that references the SLRD Code of Conduct bylaw, and that members must also adhere to all rules of procedure that are established by the procedure bylaw. The other provisions of section 22 are all carried over from the current bylaw, just with updated language for clarity and readability.
Now, referencing the specific number of the bylaw, considering that that is the current version as it is today, if you referenced that, then does both bylaw, if that gets updated, 1888, when that gets amended, you'll also have to amend this bylaw so that the reference number matches, or does that stay the same?
Right after the bylaw citation, it says as amended. So
Okay.
that does cover us. And then if we had another bylaw, we could do some housekeeping or
Okay.
such, but we wouldn't bring a bylaw amendment for this, just for that
Got
item.
it.
And that language, and we've done that with the other citations as well to the other external authorities as amended. So if there are any changes, we're covered.
So if the Local New Government Act gets
Correct.
amended, then we're good.
Yes. Yes, and that's why that's repeated and that language is used within the bylaw here. I just wanted to mention there was some direction or staff were going to look at the debate section, which is draft bylaw section 23. There are no changes to that area. All of those were carried over from the procedure bylaw, just updated for language only. For example, member versus director. As appropriate for this section.
Okay.
Okay. Element 18 and 19, staff endorse recommendation to introduce provision and expand and simplify the language in the motions generally, amendments generally, and withdrawing motions and amendments generally. And also there was committee and board direction that the draft bylaw introduce speaking time limits for the board when a motion is on the floor. So you can look at part 4. Yeah. Yeah, that was directed by the board and incorporated here. So part 4, section 25, this is the motions generally section. These are mostly provisions of the current bylaw. You'll see 25.3 and 25.4. Those are the ones related to the speaking time limits that was directed. And 25.6 is a listing of motions that members may make when a motion is on the floor. It's using SLRD board language just to clarify the procedures and support meeting efficiency and transparency. So again, this is amend, refer, defer. And this is really, again, anchored in your current practice. This is not something that's been recommended to change the way that you do things. This is the way you do things, and it is just here as a reference and again, to provide some clarity in the bylaw.
And this obviously will help people as they learn how to conduct the business of the board, because it is very hard to learn. We've never done it before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I might add that the default authority for rules is the Robert's Rule of Order. But if we have it here in our bylaw, this is what we follow.
Right.
So we're not saying, oh, we don't know what we do when we need to refer. Open the book for Robert's Rule of Order. If it's here, this is the rule for the board conduct during meetings. Okay, section 26, amendments generally. No substantive changes here. It's the same as the 4 provisions in the current bylaw. They're just written in plainer language to improve clarity here and readability. And section 27, withdrawing a motion or an amendment generally. This is one new provision that reflects what the board already does in practice. And when we looked at other procedure bylaws, it was common to see a clear rule here about withdrawing motions or amendments. And we really started to see some varied rules. And again, that was just what I was saying about embedding something that works for your council or your board. And so this new provision really reflects what you're doing. It also balances flexibility and meeting efficiency and transparency. So under this provision, the mover of a motion or an amendment can withdraw it at any time before the vote is taken, as long as the seconder agrees. And if a motion or amendment is withdrawn, it wouldn't be recorded in the meeting minutes, which is also common to see in the procedure bylaw around this type of thing.
This isn't, I think we generally say, oh, you have to, the motion has to fail so that you can put a new, but now this changes so that the motion, the mover can withdraw it without having to, got it, okay.
Exactly, yeah, so then in the past, we've often had a vote where there's opposition to a
Yeah.
resolution, and it doesn't really reflect the sentiment of the board.
That's right.
So we feel that this is a better reflection and provides a bit more flexibility.
Yeah. Going back to section 25, I wonder if you put in that, because currently if we defer a motion to a future meeting, you don't debate it after. Like as soon as there's a motion to defer, you no longer debate or comment or continue the discussion because it takes us way down the road. So just adding in that language of it says to delay the consideration, but I would like it to be a little bit more specific to say, and no further discussion or no further debate. Because it's like motion comments. If you have to make a comment, make it before the vote because it could influence the outcome of the vote. If you're saving a comment for after the vote, it's not recorded, but it might have changed someone's decision. And so I try not to allow them, but I won't always be the chair. And I don't think it's good practice to continue to speak on an item after the vote has taken place. And so I think that's an important thing to include. Vivian, go ahead.
Thanks. I was thinking, members shall be limited to speaking in connection with a single question, no more than twice. Oh, we don't follow.
I don't follow that.
And it's, I like it, but depends, you know, unless it's maybe me that wants to say something, but that's a different situation for you. But it does say limits of this subsection are subject to adjustment at the discretion of the chair.
Yeah.
So that puts it a little bit on you.
So if I decided to just say, nope, you've already had your
You've spoken
turn,
twice, yeah.
no more, and that could actually give a better meeting operation when conversations go off the rails.
Ideally, it would force us to be more disciplined.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's 25-3.
That is 25-3. And I really like all of these changes.
John, go ahead.
I hope I'm not dragging us back with this question, but I'm putting it out there. I looked at all of this through a lens of transparency, access to information, public engagement, specifically through a journalism lens and accountability. And when I saw the proposed section 20.1C to not record withdrawn motions or withdrawn amendments, it had me wondering if there was discussion through the process and debate around the value of recording that information and having it in the minutes. And then also as research was done on what other communities are doing, what the ratio is of who's doing it and who's not. Like, are there 90% out there that are not recording that and 10 or is it more 50-50?
I don't think I can answer the question around like going back to my research to say who's doing what and quantify it in that way. But we did see this more commonly that it wasn't. And I would say and point to the reason is that probably if the board or any committee during a meeting is in a situation where they're deciding if they're looking to withdraw a motion or an amendment, perhaps it's because it's not really getting into a place where it's ready to go to the vote and you're able to form it or get it to a place where it could even be recorded in the minutes. And so it is an option that you can start fresh. You can take it off the floor. And so I hope that answers your question in a way, Director French. I might ask GM Belsham if she'd like to add to that.
Yeah, if I can build on that, thank you, Raylene, is just to speak to the fact that we record all of our meetings as well, which is quite fantastic. So all of our open meetings are recorded and we are now time stamping them, which is making it more accessible for the public so that they can go to an item, say item 2.1 on an agenda and press the camera and it'll bring them directly to the conversation of the committee or the board at the time so that the public does have that transparency around the discussion that does take place.
Yes, technology solutions, always 2 thumbs up. Thank you.
Yeah, and it is an interesting piece of understanding that, you know, the board considered this and they decided that this was not the path they wanted to go down. But they're not, yeah, I like it. I like where your question takes this discussion, and I think that this is a better and more efficient way of seeing the world through our board's lens. I see Director Pettengill. Go ahead.
Yeah, just sort of wondering and thinking about 25.3 and appreciate that 25.4 says it doesn't apply to committees and presumably committee of the whole. But I'm just wondering if we get into so something's moved and seconded where it's at a regular meeting, we find people are wanting to try and speak more than twice and so on. Are we in a position with all these changes where we can say, hey, let's refer this back to a committee of the whole? Because it seems like we actually need a bit more discussion, and that motion can be tested, and then you either proceed to the vote or you push it off to the committee of the whole, or once you've called the vote, you're sort of locked in and you can't sort of push it back to a committee of the whole for more discussion. If it evolves, that's what's sort of required.
Yeah, that would be the 25.6B, refer it to another body. So refer this to the committee.
Okay. Sorry, I should have read a little further ahead. Thank you.
I feel smart right now.
Motion adjourned.
2016.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, that brings us to the final element, if you're ready to move on to that one. Okay, so this was an endorsed staff recommendation to introduce provisions and expand and simplify the language of current provisions to clarify and articulate the board's current established procedural practice in alignment with the board's guiding values and, for example, transparency and meeting efficiency. So I do have 7 provisions that I could bring up for you now and give you a little overview of each. So I'll start with the first one. Okay, looking to provision 16.5 in the draft procedure bylaw. This is basically a housekeeping update. This is when the board wishes to change the order of proceedings in business. And Director Birch-Jones, you had mentioned that. This is your regular practice. It's in the current bylaw, but we just changed the rule that the board can agree by unanimous consent versus needing to take a vote. Speeds the meeting up for you. 18.1. This is a common provision that staff came across in their research where the corporate officer may place correspondence on the agenda. And we had included in accordance with applicable regional district policies as amended. Those are being developed, whatever it is that does apply to this. This also supports the existing bylaw agenda provision that the corporate officer shall place items on an agenda under the direction of the chair and aligns with just that the common practice that correspondence is addressed in a procedure bylaw.
Yeah.
You'll see in the draft procedure bylaw that correspondence has a definition. Moving on to 19.5, which is also basically a housekeeping update. It's related to the delegations and invited presentation duration. So in the current bylaw, it says a maximum of 5 minutes presentation, but now also encapsulates your process to also provide a maximum of 5 minutes question and answer time.
Yay. How's it going?
That's good. Chair changed that.
Yes.
Yep.
Can we start the meeting now?
We'll start it now. Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. Go ahead.
I understand, most of the delegations that come to us, 5 minutes and then 5 minutes questions is perfectly adequate. But there are some things which maybe we would like to spend a little bit more time than 5 minutes. So are we bound to 5 or can we get around it?
Every delegation application that does come does go through the process to be approved, and these limitations are subject to the discretion of the chair, or even during the meeting. If the chair wanted the delegation to continue and more information, that could be done in the meeting. So it could be organized ahead of time during the process, and we'd be able to inform the delegation that they have been granted a longer period of time than what's outlined in the delegation, or sorry, the procedure bylaw.
Good.
Okay. 19.8, the provision there is a common provision that we came across in our research that the board, the committee is not obligated to take any action at the same meeting for a delegation. And so, of course, the board may take action or the committee may take action. However, it's just an enhancement to the transparency here and maybe setting expectations for any potential delegation. And again, it's something that is just there as. 21.3, another basic housekeeping update. In that the chair and presiding officers section, it's in the event that neither the chair or the vice chair are able to take the chair, and the member shall appoint a member. It used to say, again, would take a vote.
Yeah.
This is, your current practice really is to appoint, and it also aligns with appoint, which was mentioned in the quorum section, which wasn't changed. So again, kind of a housekeeping. 28.2, this reflects the board's practice and also common practice to include how a vote is conducted. It's outlined here by a show of hands or a verbal indication, or that the chair may poll the directors. And again, to enhance public transparency and also meeting efficiency. And the last provision that I'll mention is 28.5, another basic housekeeping type of update, where this reflects the board's current practice and also common practice that the chair will declare the outcome of any vote, and the names of any member voting in opposition will be recorded in minutes.
Tony, did you have a question?
Yeah, about 28.2. I still notice that when we have a motion, we say all in favour. Some people put their hands up, some people don't.
Yeah.
You know, so what is our practice to be?
Well, yeah, and I mean, when we're all online, it's easy if we say you must raise your hand, the digital hand or the electronic hand. When we're in the room, it's my assumption that unless you state your opposition, you're in favor. Because there's no abstaining from a vote. And so my assumption is that people will make it known that they're opposed.
I'm just thinking of people watching, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, he's all in favour and several people put their hands up. I'm sitting here with my hands down. What do they assume from that? That I abstained? No.
Yeah. I mean, the video's not catching you if you're not speaking. Unless we're all going to be logged into Zoom on our laptops. And therefore they would see your hands.
They can see us all.
I mean, there's that band of the whole room.
Yeah, I know.
You're not catching your hand going up.
But even just sitting around here, what would be wrong with us, you know, all in favour? Put your hands. What's wrong with that?
Nothing, except that not everyone's paying attention to the point where my assumption is you will make your opposition known. And if you haven't made your opposition known, then you are in favor. If you want to make sure that the world knows that you were opposed to the budget, you will make it known. And yeah.
And if that's generally how it goes on other boards and committees as well, so.
It is?
Yeah, so that's how some people are used to it, that's how I'm used to it, at least I don't always put my hand up, sometimes I do.
Yeah.
But
That's
you
fine.
feel strongly that.
No,
Yeah.
that's fine, that's fine.
I can wave my hand.
Well, like, okay, so when Jack is chairing the meeting in Whistler, he only asks, is there anyone opposed?
Yeah.
He doesn't ask all in favor. And that's a throwback to COVID and Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
As long as it's clear and just,
yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Anything else?
Those were all the summaries and outlines I had for you.
So just for clarity on 28.2, because we
Yeah.
do say that voting shall be by a show of hands, so we'll clean that up.
Yeah, I think you could.
Opposition. Opposition to a vote, that should be shown.
We do have it 28.5 in relating to opposition, I believe.
Yeah, okay, right.
Where the
Now, are
parents-
you recording that so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so were opposed? Yes.
Yeah, so that's why the opposition vote is most important for us, because within the procedure bylaw in our we must record that in the minutes.
Right.
But we don't record those that are in favor. So
should
those.
Right.
Take that out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so we can address 28.2
Yeah, it is-
when it comes back to the board.
You could do it like Vancouver does it, where they have a table for every vote. And it shows how the members voted for every single vote. Those get shared with the media when it's a matter of.
Oh, Russell said.
I know. Don't do the table.
I think with the 28.5, which is, you know, clear about the opposition to them.
Yeah.
That's fine, and just change the wording of 28.2 because it suggests something that we're not doing.
Yeah. Okay.
I have those pieces of feedback to incorporate into the draft. So again, hoping for some direction as to how you'd like to proceed.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have one more that I was curious about. And again, this comes back to my days of being a journalist and sorting through minutes. 20.1D specifically says, not record the names of movers and seconders of motions unless requirements pertaining to specific motions expressly call for such to be recorded. I don't really understand what the last part of that means and how it's determined
Yeah,
what is expressly to be recorded.
so we have a lot of weighted votes, or we have votes that are only including areas C and Village of Pemberton. And so no one else can vote on those items. They still come to our board. So in the event that that was the minute, then it would have to show. But Raylene, I bet you have a better answer.
And this, it just opens that up in case there was a specific type of vote or something that was required, that we can't capture every scenario, but otherwise the main practice is mostly not.
Okay, and I'm not a big fan of this because sometimes who moves and who seconded a motion can tell you a lot about where the motion came from, what the motivation is.
Again,
And I
then
think
you
it's
go to
valuable
video.
information.
You'd go and watch the video as to, I'll move it for conversation, but I'm not interested.
Yeah.
You know, or I'll move it for the discussion. And I'm really curious to see where this goes, kind of thing, you know, like, but that's where the video is gonna tell the story.
And as long as the board is comfortable with that, then that's great. I register my opposition to that functioning for the reasons stated.
And Mike and Lori, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I agree with Jen that often I'll second a motion to hear what other people have to say, to carry the thought forward, but it doesn't represent that I'm necessarily supportive of it.
Director Hoffel, then Director Herbert.
Thanks. I'm just curious as to why 28.2 and 28.3 aren't combined. So if it was 28.2, voting shall be by a show of hands and include a visible or audible indication from members participating electronically. And then if a member who is present abstains from voting, that member shall have deemed to have voted in the affirmative. And then where a vote is unclear. I'm just wondering why that's not combined, or could we combine it? Is that something that we should combine?
Yeah, maybe we tighten that up and have. Cause it's our practice. Thank you, Lori. That will get cleaned up, and Director Herford, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
You're good?
I'm sorry about that. There's obviously something very exciting out the front window for my little dog. My just on the matter of the minutes and the recording of movers and seconders, I think that in my mind, I've been separated the sort of the function of the minutes into just recording the outcomes rather than the process, and the recording being the process. So just to my colleague with concerns around the transparency here, I think with the sort of totality of the technology that we're using, the key piece is that the minutes record the outcome and the will of the board, not necessarily the nuance of getting there. And I've moved things and encouraged people to vote them down. So I don't know that there's always an accurate story to be told there. And apologies again for the loud noise of my small dog.
We didn't pick it up, so you're good. Okay, anything new or any other feedback for staff at this point, or are we ready to move motion here? Go ahead.
Yeah, ready to support this. This is a crystal clear presentation. I'm really grateful for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Support these changes.
Any other feedback or any other feedback you would ask us for at this time?
Well, I think as Ms. Rehel mentioned, is we're just looking for direction now as to whether or not the committee of the whole would like to see this again with the changes, or if you're happy with us bringing it forward to a future board meeting with those minimal tweaks so that we can start working towards readings.
I would love to get to that place. I would encourage us to move a motion that we see this as amended in this discussion.
Amended.
Yeah.
Please.
So.
Forthwith.
I've got it moved by Director Birch Jones. I've got it
Second.
seconded by Director Rainbow.
And
Any further comments?
yeah, I would just like to say that I'm really impressed with the work that has been done on this. This was extremely clear, and I really also would like to commend you on your presentation, your preparation for it. First class, thank you very much.
First class. Yeah. Anything else? All in favor? Put your hands up, Tony. Is there anyone opposed? I see no one opposed. Let's record that no one opposed. Thank you very much. Thank you. You really are a great presenter. Thank you.
No, we're at the end of the agenda. Let's post the agenda.
No, well, I don't.
It's late business.
Just have this.
No.
No, we have to go back to the other one.
Go back to
And
yesterday's
then go back
meeting.
somewhere else?
Yes.
There's always going back. Just assume, just assume.
I didn't get any documents. This is the first time I'm saying this.
What do you mean?
Okay, so we're.
Jack told me I was coming to this Tuesday night. And then I didn't get any,
Well, we don't get sent the agendas. You have to go to the,
it wasn't put in my calendar, like there was nothing.
but yeah.
No, I know it's on.
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
even,
but it was like, I didn't know.
only send us the close.
We got the chair's verbal update now. This will take about an hour.
Okay. Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Are we moving on?
Mhm.
Okay, I do not have yes, I think I'll take this opportunity to share our condolences with the friends and family of the person lost at Joffrey Lake. And
That email we got, I wasn't clear where that came from.
oh, did I not?
Yeah, it's there. You have to scroll down. It's from
So
the.
Lillooet Nation has requested that our board or representatives of our organization join them for a moment of condolence for the family and friends of the snowboarder lost, and to let us know that they're holding a ceremony to honor the life and passing at 1 p.m. today. Knowing that our board and senior staff would be at this meeting today, they asked that we have a moment of silence to demonstrate our support for the ceremony taking place. Heather? Do you want me to read their statement?
This is completely.
Yeah. So this following message was sent to us from Maxine Bruce at the Lillooet Nation. On behalf of the Lillooet Nation, we offer our deepest condolences to the family, friends, and community who mourn the loss of their loved one at Papeetwa. Our lands and mountains are places of profound cultural, spiritual, and ancestral significance. When a life is lost here, we hold that loss with great care and solemn respect. May the strength of the community and the enduring presence of the mountains bring comfort in this time of deep sorrow. As stewards of this land, we ask all who travel here to do so with humility, care, and respect, remembering they are moving through living lands that hold both great beauty and great power. I don't know how to say, is it Kuchtumkalop? And with that, I would just like to take a moment as a board. Okay, of your loved ones, thank you. With that, there's no late business for committee of the whole. And I'll ask for a motion to adjourn this committee of the whole for February 26th. Moved by Director Rainbow, seconded by Director Birch Jones. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move back into our regular agenda. That was recessed yesterday at 4 p.m. And I don't have my notes as to where we were. I think we're at 9.3.
10.1.
10.1. Look how efficient we were yesterday. The chair's verbal report. Another report from me. Except that I have returned back to previous practice of allowing anyone. We're not going around the whole table unless there is something that you would like to share with us from your community. I'll open it up now to anyone that has something to tell us. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've been having power outages in that north end up there, like say Pool Creek, north of Darcy. At least once a week, sometimes twice a week. When I left here yesterday, the power went out at 4 o'clock and didn't come on till midnight. When I was on my way in this morning at 7:15, I got to Gates Lake. Fire department stops me, says there's a live wire laying across the road. So we're waiting for hydro, gotta go home, there's no power again. And then the power just came back on, I came back in. Now Sander phones me and says the power's out again. Hydro used to hire, contractors, tree trimming experts and all that. And I can't remember the name of them, but anyways, some of the bigger companies. And they used to, not every year, but maybe every other year, they would run the whole lines from, and they do it all over the place, right? And take down any suspect trees, danger trees, whatever. Well, they haven't done that for the last few years. And now we have trees. I mean, when I'm driving in, I'm looking at trees going, that's coming down. And sure enough, sooner or later it comes down, right? So I don't know if we can, send a letter to Hydro or something saying, you got to get back on this program of keeping your lines protected as much as you can. I mean, I know it's tough because we live in a forest, right? So there's trees everywhere. But there's trees that are rotten, dead, standing, this kind of stuff. These guys are professionals. They can look at a tree. I mean, I drive in and see these trees leaning towards the power lines, and damn well when they come down, they're taking the power lines out. And this is a regular occurrence. So
I wonder if we write a letter to our local BC Hydro representative asking them for maybe they come and visit us.
Yeah, that would be
Do a
very nice.
delegation and they can tell us what their current branch and
Program
and
is.
rotten tree plan is.
Yeah.
Because we get, like, they're happy to come on behalf of area A and area B. And we haven't heard from them in an area C, area D context for quite a while.
Forever.
So let's write a letter on behalf of the board asking them to come and update us on current plans.
That would be very much appreciated.
Okay, so moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Morton. Any further comment? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Director Mack. Any other area updates that we should know about? Otherwise, we'll move on into the rest of our agenda, which is not super heavy. 10.2, Director Rainbow, campground proposal. Where is this?
Okay,
This is on page 572 of our agenda. This is 10.2.
Regular board, 572.
GM of Planning Services. Where? Go ahead. Are you just here to answer questions? Okay. Director Rainbow.
Okay.
Here.
First of all, I'd like to emphasize I'm not here trying to argue or apply for any kind of a variance on behalf of this group. I was approached by Sorka, and they want to establish a backcountry campsite. And they looked at our campground bylaw, and they talked to someone on staff about our campground bylaw, and it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. What they want to do, they were told need to apply for a variance. But when I looked at what they wanted, and we looked at our campground bylaw, and we would pretty well need to apply to vary just about everything in the bylaw. It just doesn't fit at all. So my question for us today and for the staff is, instead of having the commercial campground bylaw in place and then trying to go through this variance to, for example, they don't want to have any potable water there. People want to camp in the backcountry, they bring their own water in. They don't want to have flush toilets or anything like that. But any toilets at all, it would be the urine diversion type of toilets. And they don't want pads for recreational vehicles. This is strictly tent camping. The only construction they're looking at is tent platforms and camping platforms. So given all that, I thought it might be easier, or less time certainly, in treating this as a sort of a standalone application. That we look at the merits of it and so on, and use it as a sort of a test case. Set up a backcountry campground with a view to perhaps having a second campground bylaw, one that is, leave the one alone for commercial campgrounds and have something that would apply to any kind of backcountry application. So that really is what I'm interested in.
And you do that?
Thank you. So through the chair, Claire Dewar, Director of Planning and Development Services. I guess we have a few aspects here at play. One is that just for the awareness of the board and the public, the campground bylaw and permitting process is only in place in electoral area D at present. So this conversation is scoped right now to electoral area D. The other piece of information I'd like to share is that camping or campground as a permitted use is very limited in area D. And typically we address these through a zoning and sometimes an OCP amendment process before we even get to a campground permit application. And this, we have a couple examples in play right now in electoral area D. Otherwise, we have examples, the question is like, do we have examples of backcountry camping happening elsewhere in the SLRD or specifically area D? Typically, these are BC parks and recs sites, and these are managed provincially. We do have our bylaws allow uses permitted in all zones is specifically scoped to provide for. Let me find this section here. Recreation site established under section 56 of the Forest and Range Practices Act. So that's covering, you know, where someone's hiking into the backcountry and this is a BC Parks and Rec site, or if we're talking about a provincial park that's managed under the provincial park system. So that's how our zoning addresses those specific examples. We have had in electoral area D zoning amendment applications, say for Blackcomb helicopters for primitive tent camping for a tenure they have way up in the Alpine. So they went through a zoning amendment application. Through that site-specific zoning process, we were able to bring in conditions that were necessary to manage any considerations associated with that tent camping. So staff's recommendation would be to continue on with that process. Right now, we don't allow tourist accommodation type tent camping. So unless you're unless you're the province, you would need to be applying for a zoning amendment as an initial step. So that's sort of the current land use framework. And then specifically for, so I guess that's answering the one question, do we need a backcountry? Is there a need or a desire for a backcountry camping permit? I would say no. We have very limited application of what that would look like in the SLRD, and right now they would need a zoning amendment or a temporary use permit anyways, so we can address the management aspects through those processes, which also includes referrals to provincial ministries to adjust servicing approaches, adjacent local governments and First Nations. So that process is working well. We do have a few examples, and that's Blackcomb helicopters. We also have some other examples up in the Callahan Valley of operations that have various forms of camping, whether they're tent camping or whether they're more on the RV side of camping. But so we do have examples. And then, yeah, I'll leave it there. If there are specifics around supporting SORCA in their vision for this particular site. We do have, as was kind of already shared with this broader process, they would need zoning and potentially an OCP amendment before we would be even considering any aspects of a campground bylaw and permit. So those are also processes that we could address the site-specific conditions there.
But they could apply for a TUP without going through the OCP amendment and the zoning at this point. Or would they?
Yeah, so thank you through the chair. We would need to, we're light on information from SORCA at this time. We would need to understand the scope and the scale of what's being proposed. We do have, the site is currently, the site is currently designated under official community plan as community watershed protection, and there are really limited uses that are allowed there. And without knowing the full scope of the proposal, it's not clear to me whether this could be considered dispersed outdoor recreation or intensive recreation. My sense is it might fall into intensive recreation, given that the light information that we have received indicates about 50 sites with the potential to expand. That doesn't fit within the definition of dispersed outdoor recreation and may in fact need an OCP amendment. We would need to dig into the nuances of the application.
Following up.
Yeah, so if I'm hearing you correctly, there is a way forward other than them going through the variance process. Is it?
Yes, thank you. So through the chair, they would need to address the land use aspects specific to this property as other tenure holders or property holders have also done. So they would need to adjust the current RR3 zoning does not provide for camping or tourist accommodation, whatever form that might look like. And we're not clear whether the OCP, it may need an OCP amendment as well. And these discussions did happen about a year ago with planning staff. And in looking at those conversations, it wasn't specifically around the campground bylaw. But the flags around the zoning and OCP were communicated.
Okay, yeah, fair enough, thank you. Yeah, part of their concern is that this is all related to the bike trails that are in Area D. Half the bike trails are in Area D and the rest are in the district. And they're heavily used and people are camping. And they're doing so without any toilet facilities at all. And they have, by pulling it together and getting it into one area, it enables them to do a couple of things, and also perhaps produces a bit of a revenue stream for them to help them in terms of for their maintenance of trails and so on and so forth. So okay, I have enough now to go back to them and.
Okay, I do have a speakers list. I'm gonna go to Director Pettengill, then Director Demare, and then Director Birch Jones.
Yeah, thanks. And maybe I'm not looking for detailed specifics, but what specifically would sort of trigger their need to look at a TUP, a rezoning? Like, is it the fact that they might generate revenue? Is it the existence of platforms? Is it just simply the number of campsites, even if they had no infrastructure in a certain footprint, or some combination of those things? Or is there like, no, there's this one thing they're doing, and if they didn't do that thing, then they could just sort of have to worry less about rezoning and so on?
Yes, so thank you through the chair. From the information that we've received to date, we haven't had a formal pre-consultation or pre-application meeting. There's just been an exchange of emails. The RR3 zone does not currently permit camping. So whether it's primitive tent camping or whether it's a commercial campground, a zoning amendment would be required. The other alternative is a temporary use permit. And so those are two options to address the land use that's currently provided for on the site. And to clarify, the uses permitted in all zones only allows for BC rec sites, provincially managed rec sites, to be anywhere in the SLRD. Otherwise, you fall into the other camp, and you would most likely, and specifically in Area D, you would be required to go through a zoning amendment, site-specific zoning amendment process. And then in terms of the OCP aspect, we would need to work with the proponent to understand the scale and scope and whether they would meet with the community watershed policies.
Okay, and my next speaker, Director Demare.
Yeah, thank you. It's really curious is they don't have any land right now. They don't have a tenure on a piece of land there.
Yeah, so thank you through the chair. My understanding is that it is a privately held parcel, and this is in close proximity to Alice Lake Provincial Park. And the use right now is actually like a staging area for works that are being done by Kiewit in relation to the Chikai fan debris barrier. And so looking at the photos associated with the proposed location, it's not there are brownfield type uses. Like the site has been cleared. It is looks like a construction site. So it's not to say that I think we would need to be addressing some of those community watershed protection areas in concert with Vancouver Coastal Health if we are bringing in camping to that area. I guess looking at what's the current uses on that site, there could be a path forward for a TUP or a zoning amendment application to address that land use piece. And we have, we've seen successful applications work through that process, whether they have tenure or whether it is a private parcel. This particular instance is a private parcel.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've done some work with rec sites and trails up in Area A and in Williams Lake when I was in Williams Lake. And, they'll build parking lots, they'll do a number of things. I wonder if they've looked and talked to rec sites and trails for a piece of parcel that's on Crown land that would facilitate what they're looking for.
We'll let them deal with that. Director Burch-Jones, go ahead.
Actually, Director Demare covered it. I was thinking provincial crown land, rec sites and trails as well, because that works in Area B, but this obviously is not a fit for that. Thank you.
Okay, would you like to make a motion that we do anything, or do you want to? So I think we send Sorka back to work with staff.
Yeah.
Come back with an appropriate.
Yeah, that's fine. I can go, they're waiting to hear back from me, and so I can talk to them and set something up, and I could just chat with you to make sure I'm saying the right thing to them.
Director Hereford.
I was going to move receipt or second it if that's what Tony was doing, and then just make a comment.
Yeah.
Yep.
Moved receipt, Director Hereford, seconded by Director Mack. Further comments?
Just if I can, Chair. Thank you to Director Rainbow for bringing this forward. We hear often that from the Squamish Nation about the peaceful and the desire to have peaceful enjoyment of their territory, and I think sort of the dispersed, informal, unregulated, impactful camping that happens broadly across the area is sort of one of the main issues to address. And I think I agree with where we've landed, where an applicant needs to really make an application, and we'll move forward. And I do think that the board would be should pay particular attention to this to see if there are lessons learned that could be more broadly applied to whether it's a specific as was sort of requested here, a specific backcountry designation or something, because we know the province and rec sites, they're not making those investments that we've been lobbying for a long time. As both, I know we have been at the District of Squamish has been lobbying for those investments, and they're not coming. And if there is a way that private sector can fill this need, I think it could be a positive impact. But of course, it is site by site, and I don't have there's more work to be done there. But I do think it is something that we should pay close attention to. And I am excited that this not-for-profit has decided to take this matter on, and we'll see how the rest of the process goes.
Yeah, and I'm grateful to Sorka for kind of taking this on, and because they're not private sector in the traditional sense, they're mostly volunteers, doing really, really important work to keep all of these areas contained and maintained, and this is really important to the ecosystem of that area. And to the traveling corridors for so many of the species at risk in our region. So this is really important work, and I'm grateful for their advocacy. And thanks, Tony.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so on the question of moving receipt, we have a mover and seconder. Is there anyone opposed? Seeing none. Okay. Next is 11.1, and this is a request for funding for Lillooet Learning year 2. Did you want to speak to it briefly, Director Burch-Jones?
I think it's covered. I would like to know if this is adequate information for the board. Was the back and forth a little bit with Executive Director Megan Rempel on this report. It satisfies me. It was a condition of the funding in the second year that we get a report on the first year's funding. And she did try initially to send a lot of more attachments that are just links here now in what the board is seeing. But essentially, well, I'll stop there to see the questions maybe, and then I'll be ready to make this motion.
Okay. Are there any questions? No. Okay, moved by Director Birch Jones and seconded by Director Morgan. Any further comments?
No,
I'm
I do.
appreciative of this group's work in Lillooet. I think that they add to the community breadth and depth of learning opportunities. And I think this knits a community together with Area B. So
Incredibly difficult for them to sort of tease out this little chunk of funding, this sort of $30,000. And that's kind of what we were going back and forth with, because they're receiving a lot of different funds and they're doing a whole spectrum of programs, and the hub is sort of one program under the umbrella of Lillooet Learns, which also runs some other, but it is kind of our social infrastructure. And the reconciliation work is amazing. And the promotion of some of our local art and culture scene is it's really good. So yeah, I'm happy to support them in this year too. Thank you.
okay, everyone have what they need? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Great. 11.2 is an item that was pulled from the consent agenda, 5.2.1, and Director Peck wanted to pull that.
Yeah, just finding my notes here. So this is basically the District of Nanaimo asking the ministry for something we've asked for before. I think many regional districts and municipalities have asked for this. So I just want to test the board on a thank you to Nanaimo, CC to the province and other regional districts. I'm not sure, whoever we feel is appropriate, just to say yes, us too. This is still an issue, just to keep it alive.
Yeah, I'm happy with us doing that if you want. And, you know, maybe this is a consideration for, it's funny that I would have said, let's ask UBCM to do a session on this. But they've done it a million times. Yeah, I agree, Director Pettengill, we bring this forward as a letter saying thank you and we support to the ministry. As we've seen, it is the tightest budget and biggest deficit budget that the province has seen. They are in tight times. That's why I make the comment every time when we see budgets that this is the new normal of tight budgets and difficult decisions. And so we have to continue to work within our budgetary means, but. And while our areas have continued to support these search and rescue agencies as volunteer and from select funds and Pilton funds and
Taxation.
and we continue to take this on. I mean, we continue to take this on and that lets the province off the hook.
Excuse me, are we indicating support for all the points in the letter, including increase the BC volunteer first responder tax credit? Is we all comfortable with all I mean, I think it's all good. Just
Yeah.
double checking.
Yeah, they've elevated that to the federal level as well.
Yeah.
Many times and through FCM advocacy, which is, yeah. So unless you want to take certain
Nope.
items out.
No, not at all. I was just double checking people.
Okay. Does staff have enough to work with on that letter? Thank you. And did I have a mover? Director Pettengill, seconded by Director French. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you, Director Pettengill. All right, we're now to late business, which was any additional late business?
Rewind, delete. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, 13.1, a correspondence for action from Lillooet and District Rescue Society regarding equipment acquisition. They're requesting $15,000 towards the purchase of 4 to 8 heavy lift rescue airbags, hoses, controllers, air bottles, and subsequent training. Area B.
And I believe
And Lillooet,
Director Demare wanted to comment on this one.
Director Demare,
I'm trying to find it, excuse me.
that's okay.
I know I've seen the request, I'm just trying.
Yeah, we got the request.
Hold on.
This is very valuable equipment.
I didn't know what it was, but I have had it explained to me.
Yeah.
It's
Like
on
those-
page 585.
Okay,
the
I
agenda.
found it. I found the original request, so I'm good. I really appreciate what the Lillooet District Rescue Service does. It's a phenomenal group of volunteers. And I mean,
This enters into the realm of less than search and rescue in the traditional sense of going out into the backcountry to help injured and lost skiers and snowmobilers.
well,
But this is road rescue from,
correct.
and so this now really takes us into land of the provincial purview and.
You bet.
So I feel like, again, they need it.
But
I
maybe
do
we
have-
could just play a portion, and I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's what Director Demare was suggesting, and we actually asked our. If it's okay for me to speak to this, our NDIT funded grant writer, hallelujah, to look at. Some of the bigger companies that are using this road for industrial purposes. The miners, BC Hydro and so forth. And that, you know, they could chip in if areas A and B put in 2,000, that they could at least match that, so. That's what we were thinking of doing in Sal. I see you have your hand up. Probably, you probably can speak to it better than me.
Sal?
Yes, yeah. The society does amazing work.
Yep.
The fatality on Road 40, Wayne, I come up to it, and I got in the canyon there. First people to arrive were this group, and they've been to many on Road 40 and other places in and around Lillooet. And I fully support what they're asking for, but you know what we'd like to do, or me and Vivian have discussed, is that we have some of the major companies like Talisker Resources, BC Hydro, Aspen Planners, Interwest Timber, and ask them for $2,000 each. District of Lillooet, 2,000, Area A, 2,500, Area B, 2,500. That captures everybody that uses the roads in and around us. That service is so valuable for. So,
But these bags are used for more than road rescue.
Yeah.
I mean, they can be used for building collapse, they can be used for anything. That's what they're designed for. And getting into awkward places if a building is collapsed and, you know, so they have a lot of uses. Throughout the
Yes.
whole area.
Totally. So we've got our grant writer out there right now,
So I wonder if.
starting that process.
Sorry, I'm interrupting.
That's okay.
If this should be moved to deferred to the EAD meeting, and in the interim, we can do some of that footwork. And I believe we would be using select funds for this anyway. If we're talking about the smaller amounts, so.
Right.
Defer to the EAD,
Yeah.
and I make that motion, is that all right with you?
Is it
Sarah?
defer or refer?
Would be refer. Refer, with an R, forthwith.
Forthwith.
Sorry, okay, I'll stop doing
now. Now I want to hear that word once. Not more.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to, the motion is to refer this letter to the EAD for March.
Yes, thank you.
Moved by Director Birch Jones, seconded by Director Rainbow. All in favor, any opposed, motion carries. Very good. And now 13.2, there's a director's report, and this comes from Director Rainbow, but I'm sure it's in partnership with the district. Squamish.
That was to be my first comment.
I'd like to get ahead of you there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, although it only has my name on it, should have Armand's name on it as well, because Southern Pelt is shared by a district of Squamish Area D, and any proposal should come from jointly from both. So we have spoken about this. Just a little reminder for you, within the PILT allocation policy as it exists, the library gets $14,000, has done from the beginning of that policy. It's never gone up. It's fixed at 14,000. Southern PILT, we've been supporting the library with additional annual contributions of $40,000. With the idea being that we could continue to do that at least until there's a cost center that would generate that sort of funding from taxes. That's whether we go in that direction or not. I guess we could debate that at some point in the future. Last year, the annual contribution of $40,000 was overlooked, partly because I wasn't around for a lot of the year. So costs have gone up. So with that in mind, I've got two proposals. One that $40,000 be allocated to the library for the 2025 with funds coming from Southern PILT, and that for 2026 we allocate $46,000. So that's an increase of $6,000. Again, with funds coming from Southern PILT. And I sort of put that way because I think we're going to bring a proposal, PILT policy is reviewed, that we take that $14,000 amount. If this is approved, we take the $46,000 from this year, which gives about a total of about 60. That we express that as a percentage of the PILT allocation, which tends to increase every year. If we do it that way, then the library would have $60,000 a year that they can rely on, so that we don't have to do a motion, pass it at this board every year. And that's I'm saying 60, but if it's expressed as a percentage, it would increase as the PILT payments increase to the district. So
With that,
I'm going to move. Can I move both those that's
Yeah.
at the same time? I'll move both of that's that are on your agenda.
and I see Director Herford is seconding it.
Yes, I'll second that. I'd like to comment when it's time.
Go ahead and make a comment, and then I've got Director French.
I'm just happy to see this move forward, and is a great example of how we can cooperate to deliver services to our communities. And the library is just such an asset for all of us in our community. So I'm happy to see the support here. And thank you to my colleague Director Rainbow for putting his mind to this and working together to get this across the line.
Thank you, and Director French.
In supporting this motion, I wanted to point out that the library board is very well aware of wants and needs outside of the district of Squamish. So library users in Britannia Furry Creek and the northern outlying areas are not being forgotten about by this board. There's active talk about mobile services and other ways that those who are living outside the district of Squamish boundaries can be served better by our library. And I see these funds helping all those efforts.
Thank you. Okay. Any further comments? All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. It would be weird if you opposed.
He's like, you know what?
Director Technical, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, and maybe we don't need a motion, but just move that Director Rainbow's comments about sort of future PILT fund use be referred to the policy committee, just so we don't lose track of that conversation.
I think they've been captured, and they will definitely be, and to the members of the policy committee, I'm sure we'll remember this when the time comes. But I don't
Okay.
Staff discussed it, and I discussed it with Director Rainbow as well, and it is our long-term plan, our plan for PILT policy to represent this in percentages, because that's been raised a number of times.
Yeah.
And this number is recorded as the recommended number for PILT allocation tool.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Great,
It's a very nice note to end on.
Let's move on.
Done yet.
Any notice of motion? I don't see any notice of motion. We have, come to the end.
Better go back.
So let's, move that we go into closed.
Can we address number 16? We have a number of resolutions that were from the committee of the
Of
whole.
course.
So if you can bear with me, I will list them out for you.
Okay,
And they can all be moved together.
awesome.
That cost center 1,000 general government services budget be approved as presented. That cost center 1,200 land planning and zoning budget be approved as presented. That cost center 1,300 regional solid waste management budget be approved as presented. That cost center 2,105 Squamish District swimming pool budget be approved as presented. That cost center 1,703 Lillooet area rescue service budget be approved as presented. That cost center 1,902 Lillooet area refuse grounds budget be approved as presented. That cost center 2,003 Lillooet Camel's Foot TV and radio rebroadcasting budget be approved as presented. That cost center 2,500 Lillooet area B library budget be approved as presented. And that staff incorporate the feedback from the committee of the whole into the draft proposed procedure bylaw number 1899, 2026, and that the bylaw be brought to a future board meeting for consideration.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Birchstone, seconded by Director Morton. Any comments? All was said. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Now we're going to.
Motion to go in camera.
Moved by Director Richmond, seconded by Director Madden. In favor, any opposed?